Tehran is drenched with dark rain. And, that's not a metaphor. Oil is soaked and clouds are descending on a city of 9 million after a wave of American and Israeli strikes turned Iran's oil depots into raging infernos that have just, well, blotted out the sun. Sewage lines are on fire, streets are running with flames. Meanwhile, in Washington, the man who launched all of this picks up the phone, calls ABC News, and says, "I am not worried about anything at all. That is the reality right now." The President of the United States initiated a conflict that has shuttered the Strait of Hormuz for the first time in 80 years, sent energy markets into freefall, killed American service members whose names were read on national TV, and triggered retaliatory strikes from Tehran to Tel Aviv, Bahrain to Kuwait. And his response? It is a little glitch. We had to take this detour. A detour. That's what the commander-in-chief is calling a conflict that has engulfed the entire Middle East, produced scenes that look, honestly, apocalyptic, and left Iran's foreign minister on U.S. television saying, "No, we are not interested in your ceasefire. Not this time." Let's rewind because, the speed of this war has buried the events that actually matter. The U.S. and Israel began striking Iran, first targeting military sites, then oil infrastructure. According to multiple independent investigations, Reuters, CNN, New York Times, a strike on an elementary school in southern Iran killed over 170 people, including dozens of children. Initially, Iran accepted a ceasefire, exercising restraint and framing its response as self-defense. But when strikes resumed, hitting hospitals, refineries, and freshwater plants, Tehran made a different calculation. This time, Iran said no. That single word is reshaping the entire conflict. Washington's strategy assumed Iran would eventually fold, that pressure would force the regime to crack. Instead, Iran is retaliating. Ballistic missiles, Shuttered drones, cluster munitions landing in Tel Aviv and surrounding cities, and strikes on Bahrain's desalination plants, mirroring what has been done to them. And the United States has no visible exit strategy. Let's break down 3 moments from the past few days that illustrate just how unhinged this has become. Donald Trump calls Mary Bruce at ABC News. She asks basic wartime questions. Are you concerned about Americans at home? Retaliation from Iran? Rising gas prices? His answer, I am not worried about anything at all. I think it is fine. It is a little glitch. We had to take this detour. I knew exactly what was going to happen with the detour. A detour, an unlawful war with American soldiers already returned in flag-draped coffins, the Middle East ablaze, the Strait of Hormuz shut down, and he calls it a detour. Then he adds everything is on the table. Ground forces, special operations in Iran to capture enriched uranium, and, perhaps most revealing, he warns that if Iran selects its next Ayatollah without consulting him, the new one will not last long. He's attempting to handpick the supreme leader of a sovereign nation of 90 million people. Not strategy, delusion dressed as strength. Trump sends Lindsey Graham on morning shows. Graham appears wearing hats, reading "Free Cuba" and "Make Iran Great," delivering what can only be called a wartime infomercial. We are marching through the world. We are cleaning out the bad guys. Iran is going down and Cuba is next. Let that sink in. A sitting U.S. senator, during an active war that has already killed American service members, is pitching the next war before this one is even over. He calls Trump the greatest commander-in-chief ever, saying, "You just wait to see the next 2 weeks. We are going to blow the hell out of these people." Then he turns to Arab allies, whose infrastructure is being destroyed, and says, "If you want a treaty with the United States, you need to join the fight. Not diplomacy. Extortion with a merch table." And the fact that Graham is selling hats while advocating war tells you everything about who's actually driving U.S. strategy here. Nobody. During the dignified transfer at Dover, where 6 American service members' remains were returned, Trump attended wearing a $55 campaign hat. Fox News aired the ceremony, but not the real one. Instead, they ran footage from a prior transfer during Trump's first term, where he wasn't wearing the campaign hat. They were caught and issued an on-air correction, calling it an inadvertent error. But when has Fox News ever accidentally made the president look more dignified? This is another sign of how media and messaging are being manipulated in real time amid escalating military conflict. The names of the 6 Americans lost deserve to be spoken without a sales pitch. Captain Cody Cork, Sergeant First Class Nicole Moore, Sergeant First Class Noah Tenz, Sergeant Declan Cody, Major Jeffrey O'Brien, Chief Warrant Officer 3 Robert Marzazin. Every single one of them a hero, not one of them a prop. If what I'm reporting here is connecting dots you haven't seen assembled anywhere else, you're already ahead of most people following this conflict. Subscribe now. This war is moving faster than any outlet can track, and I'll break it down every single day. You need to be here when the next update drops. While Trump and Graham project invincibility on American television, Iran's foreign minister went on Meet the Press and delivered something the White House clearly did not expect: calm, calculated defiance. Most countries facing the full weight of American power scramble to negotiate. Iran did the opposite. The foreign minister laid out the logic with surgical precision. Last time you attacked us, we accepted the ceasefire in good faith. You used that pause to rearm and strike again. You bombed our schools, hospitals, and water supply. So no, we are not accepting another ceasefire. There should be a permanent end to the war. Until that happens, we will continue fighting for our people and our security. That is not bluster. It is a strategic decision based on pattern recognition. Iran learned from the last round restraint only allowed more attacks. While Trump tells Americans he is not worried, Iran is committing to make this war costly and prolonged, shifting pressure back onto Washington. The evidence is already visible. The Strait of Hormuz, which carries about 1/5 of global oil, is effectively shut down. Kuwait reports tanker traffic is practically zero for the first time in 80 years. Iraqi oil output has plunged by 60%. Qatar has shut down its liquefied natural gas production. Iran struck Kuwait's social security building and Bahrain's desalination plants, mirroring previous U.S. strikes. The United Arab Emirates denied involvement despite Israeli claims, insisting they are in a purely defensive posture. You do not defeat a superpower by matching firepower. You make the conflict expensive enough that public pressure builds at home. Filling your car? Prices are going up. Buying groceries? Costs are rising. Retirement accounts? Well, market volatility is ahead. Analysts expect consumer and producer price index impacts in energy, food, airlines, transport, and insurance, potentially pushing headline inflation above 4% by April or May. The Hormuz shutdown alone destabilizes energy markets. Once supply chains reroute and companies adapt, the changes are structural and long-lasting, not undone by a ceasefire months later. Gulf states, Europe, and business interests are now pressuring both sides to agree to a real ceasefire. Both claim victory, the Strait of Hormuz reopens, and markets stabilize. But the structural damage remains, and trust in the Gulf security architecture is eroded permanently. Middle Eastern powers begin to hedge their bets, building ties with China, India, and non-Western powers. The United States remains dominant but is no longer the unquestioned center of strategic loyalty. Once fractured, alliances do not easily reassemble. Ground forces and special operations are inside Iran. There is an attempted regime change in a country of 90 million with hardened military infrastructure. Cuba is added to the list, according to Lindsey Graham's March Through the World doctrine. Allies are forced to pick sides and the global economy fragments. The war, which was initially called a little glitch, becomes a defining catastrophe of a generation. Whatever happens next, the Middle East's architecture of the last several decades is irreversibly changed. Even if Trump reverses course tomorrow, every country watching has learned the lesson. Never put all your strategic eggs in one basket, especially when the person holding the basket calls a regional war a detour and wears a campaign hat to a funeral. Iran did not start this war, but its foreign minister made it clear. It will not end on Washington's terms. Trump didn't build an exit strategy. He built a merchandise line. Lindsey Graham didn't deliver doctrine. He offered a world tour of destruction with a gift shop at the end. So here's the final question. Did Trump break the Middle East? Or did the Middle East stop pretending the old order still worked? Is Iran's refusal to accept another ceasefire strategic patience, or a dangerous gamble that could consume the region? And when a U.S. senator says, "We are marching through the world," does anyone in Washington actually know where that march ends? Drop your answers in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe, because the next chapter, Hormuz standoff, ground force decisions, Gulf realignment, inflation shock, is coming fast.